Jake here for American Trucks, and in this video we're taking a look at the Mammoth Trail Series Premium Monotube rear shocks for 0 to 3.5 inch lifts, fitting 2009 to 2023 F-150s excluding the Raptor. If you're hitting the trail with your F-150, especially if you're planning on lifting it or if you've already got one on there, the Mammoth Trail Series Premium Monotubes are going to give you the performance and stability you're after without forcing you to spend a small fortune, and they're going to pair well with a stock height or with a lifted application. When it comes to shocks, there is all kinds of discourse over which is best. And of course, much of that is subjective, and it's going to be based on how you use your truck. However, these Mammoth Trail Series monotubes are a pretty sweet setup. Being monotubes means that they are a little bit stiffer than your stock setup, which is going to lead to some improvement in handling and overall dynamics. And that's especially important if your truck is lifted. Now, speaking of, it is worth mentioning again that these are going to work on your truck either at stock ride height or anywhere up to a 3.5 inch lift. Now, these themselves are not going to provide you any additional height, but they will accommodate extra height should you already have a lift kit installed. But back to the monotube setup. Now, these are oil and gas filled as you would expect, and they are not adjustable for damping, but they do have a larger capacity than your stock shocks, making for better rebound and damping, which again is going to give you more control out on the street or on the trail. Given their design and that oil and gas filling, they're also going to have much better heat dissipation than stock, and they're much more resistant to cavitation or aeration or getting tiny bubbles in the fluid inside. So they're going to perform well even in more intense off-road situations. Now, it is worth noting here that this is a pair of rear shocks only. Now, Mammoth does offer a matching set of front shocks that are available on our site, and if you want a really well-sorted setup, I'd recommend grabbing a set for the front as well. Now, being a monotube shock, these are pretty hefty. They feature a large steel outer housing with a nice gloss black powder coat over top to help protect against rust and corrosion. Moving inside, you get a polished hard chrome piston rod with Freudenberg NOK seals and premium NEOS oil, so they're a very solid setup. They also come with all new bushings, both top and bottom, so these are going to bolt right in place of your stock ones. You don't have to buy anything additional, and they'll reuse your stock hardware. Now, pricing is going to come in at about $250 for the set, and that does put them toward the lower end of the price spectrum when it comes to monotube shocks. But you get all the benefits of a monotube here without paying the big name prices, and I think that's the real benefit here. It's going to be improved damping, better riding control out on the street or trail, and you're not going to spend a fortune to do it. We're going to give installation a 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and this job should take you about 2 hours to complete. Now, these are a straight swap for your stock rear shocks. So again, these are going to bolt right in place with no modifications needed. They use the factory mounting points and all the factory hardware. Not much more we can say about it here, so with that, let's hand things over to one of our AT customers who's going to walk you through that process now.
Here's all the tools you need to install rear shocks in the back of a 2017 F-150. You're going to need a torque wrench at the end to torque down your lug nuts. You're going to torque them down to 150 foot-pounds. You're going to need a line-up bar to line up the new shock into the hole so you get the bolt through. It's the easiest way to do it. A pair of dikes, angle cut or something to just cut the plastic wrap around the shocks. You're going to need 18mm open end combination wrench. A socket wrench will do too. That would be good. You're going to need a 21mm socket to get the lug nuts off, and a 15mm for the other side of the shock absorber. I used impact guns because that's what I have. Hand tools could be used too, might just take a little longer. I used a 3/8 impact gun, a 1/2 inch impact gun. You're also going to need a mallet to just tap the bolt through. And we use a magnetic tray to just keep all our tools together. Also, you're going to need some cinder blocks or something so you can jack up at the hitch so you can stretch out the body. So we also used a floor jack. I have an arrow over a hydraulic bottle jack, but a regular bottle jack or a floor jack will work. Just be careful when you're putting blocks on this stuff. Just make sure you do it right. So today we're installing rear Mammoth shocks on a 2017 F-150. We did one side already, so we know the simplest, quickest way of doing this. First, you're going to want to jack it up so you can take the rear wheel off. So like always, jack it up and put jack stands under it. So that's what we're going to do first. I put the jack under the pumpkin so we don't stretch out the body. We just need to get the tires off the ground a little bit so it's easier to work and it'll be easier to put it on. Like always, when you jack up a vehicle, always chalk your front wheels. So we have chalk blocks in the front, and then since we're taking the rear tires off, make sure your parking brake's off so you can easily spin the tire, take it off. We just need a little bit like that. We're gonna put our jack stands underneath the vehicle so we don't have to worry about it falling on us. Now I'm gonna lower the jack onto the jack stands, do a shake test, make sure it doesn't move around anywhere. Now we're gonna get our air gun. You could do this by hand too. If you do it by hand, make sure you loosen the lug nuts before you jack it off so you're not just spinning the tire around. But since we have an air gun, we're gonna use the air gun. Make sure it's spinning the right wheel. We're just gonna zip the lug. Always keep a catch pan where you keep all your parts and tools. As a safety measure, I always put the rear tire underneath the vehicle just in case it does fall off for some reason. At least it can catch something and not crush you. That was a 1/2-inch impact gun we used. We don't need such a big impact gun to get this rear shock off. So we're gonna get the 3/8 impact gun, which is right here. Now, the head of the bolt is a 15 millimeter, and the back of the bolt is 18. You want to get your combination wrench, socket, something. Just gotta put it on the back of the nut, and then take the front off. The old ones come off pretty easy. Just watch yourself, make sure it doesn't fall on you. Now the rear shock's off. 1, 2, 3, very simple. Now we found to get the new shock on, it's a lot longer and it's hard to compress. So we found a trick that would help with this. We first put on the top nut and bolt for the rear shock and we just hand tighten it. This is just personal preference. We have the Mammoth facing out just because we want people to see that we have Mammoth. Not a big deal, you don't have to. They're either or, you can do either or. Put it on the top, put the nut through. And we're just gonna hand tighten it just in case we gotta take it off again. Now, as you can see, you can't push it up. It's a heavy duty performance shock, so it's very hard to push up. Even though it's compressed a little bit, it's not really compressed. So we're gonna stretch out the frame from the rear axle. And how do you do this? The best way to do this is get a jack stand and an air hydraulic bottle jack, but you can do this with a regular ball jack and some cinder blocks. Make sure you do it safe because you're gonna be stretching it up pretty high. So we got our good old cinder block, air jack. Make sure it's nice and sturdy and straight under there. And we're gonna jack this pretty high. This might be a time when you don't necessarily need a helper, but it might be nice to have a helper because my helper's gonna be over there telling me when to stop, when we could get the nut through the hole. So we're gonna jack it now. Like always, working under, jacking something up, try not to go underneath the vehicle if possible. As you can see, my helper's not going underneath the vehicle, he's trying to stay clear of anything landing on it just in case it does fall. And keep jacking it until we can get it lined up pretty good. So when we did the other side, it lined it up a lot better. Thinking the other side's done, stretched it out. So we'll try to line it up with a line-up bar or something. So we got a line-up bar. I'm gonna try to line it up better so we can get the nut and bolt through. Put the bolting hanger, or a mallet really, tap it the rest of the way in. So now we're gonna tighten everything back. We use the same nuts and bolts, so there's no change there. 15mm socket, 18mm open end. All tight. Now we're ready to cut the compressor. Didn't really do us much favors. All right, now we're ready to lower everything. Now we're gonna lower the vehicle onto the jack stand so we put the wheels back on. Nice and slow. Move this all out of the way because we're gonna have to put the jack underneath it, under the pumpkin. Now we're gonna put our lug nuts on. I always just hand tight them. We're gonna follow the star pattern method of putting the lug nuts on. I just run because we're gonna, after this, we're gonna torque everything once it's back on the ground. All right, now we're gonna get the jack stand, or the jack stands underneath, out of there by jacking it up at the pumpkin. Now we're gonna lower it down. Now we're just gonna torque down the lug nuts, which will once again follow star pattern. Once you hear the 2 clicks, it means you're tight. All right, now we're done.
That's going to wrap it up here for our review and install of the Mammoth Trail Series Premium Monotube rear shocks for 0 to 3.5 inch lift, fitting 2009 and newer F-150s excluding the Raptor. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, for all things F-150, be sure to keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.